Okay, we'll bring to order the City Council special meeting Monday, August 29th, 2022 at 6 p.m. We have everybody present except Kelly Smith, Council Place 1. He needs to be with his family tonight, so that's an excused absence, and we still have a quorum. If you'll all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Please take your seats. We'll open it up to item number 3, citizen comments. And Ms. Jackie, you're signed up. Please come forward. It's a pleasure to meet you. If you'll turn on the mic, it's the... Yep, we got to record this. It's not. So the little red light will... There you go. You're on.
All right.
Welcome. Please state your name and your address, and thanks for being here.
Sure. My name is Jackie Riley Baker. I live at 21436 Fairview Circle. And I'm very excited to be here, but I also want to thank you all for representing our city. It's very important to do this. The main reason I'm here today is because we have lived in our house for almost 17 years now. And when we came here, we understand the ordinance was, if it was 3/4 of an acre or more, you can build on it. My neighbor next to me had owned a half an acre, and 3 years ago, there was a house that started being built on it, and is still being built. It is not even close to being done. So when I looked at the new ordinances coming up, the first thing statement said that, yes, lots were still going to maintain 3/4, but my question to you is, the lots that were plotted before 1972, how are they going to be handled with people being built? Because when I brought it forward, not to this specific committee, but before, the statement was, well, these were plotted before 1972. And we can't tell a homeowner that just bought their property that they cannot build a home on it. And my statement was, yes, you can. The ordinance says 3/4 of an acre. So that's my question to you. So for anybody else who's in this situation that has less than 3/4 of an acre, if it was built before 1972, what is the city going to do for us? That's it. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Jackie.
You want me to turn it off?
Yes, please. Thanks. Okay. That was the only person we had signed up for citizens' comments. So we'll move on to item number 4, business items. The following items are for discussion, consideration, and action. 4A, 2022 tax rate. Review and discuss the 2022 tax rate proposal of 0.269563. Nancy, over to you for the background information.
Thank you, Mayor. The 2022 tax year for the city of Garden Ridge shows that the city has $944,220,025 in adjusted taxable value. Of that, $412,426 of that is under protest. Of the 3 tax rates that were calculated based on our taxable value for the city council selected to propose adoption of the voter approval tax rate, which is your no new revenue rate plus 3.5%. That is the maximum that the law allows to increase that no new revenue tax rate. Therefore, the proposal is to adopt a 0.269563 cent total tax rate, and of that, 0.200091 cents is the M&O portion, or maintenance and operation portion of that tax rate, and 0.069472 is the debt portion of the tax rate. The proposed tax rate would bring in a $2,545,268. Of that, $1,889,299 would go into general fund, and the remaining $655,968 would go into our interest and sinking funds to pay the debt that the city owes during the fiscal year. The proposed tax rate is .0355886 lower than the 21 tax rate. The average home value in 2022 is $592,725. And the average home value in '21 was $535,638. When you apply the proposed tax rate to 2022's average home value, the tax bill would be $1,597.77. If you apply that same tax rate to the average home value for '21, that tax bill would be $1,443.88. And for 2022, there's $7,260,819 worth of taxable value that was new construction that was not on our tax roll in the prior tax year of '21. Are there any questions?
Council, anybody have questions for Nancy regarding the tax rate? No? Okay, thank you, Nancy.
You're welcome.
We'll move on to item number 2, hold a public hearing. Public hearing for the 2022 tax rate for the city of Garden Ridge is open at 6:07 PM. You are not required to sign up to speak, but if you do come up, please state your name and address and then sign in with the city secretary after speaking. You're limited to 1 3-minute period. Remember, we can't necessarily comment while you're at the dais, but we can talk about it in a public hearing afterwards, after you're done speaking. Any takers?
Can you put that other table back up? I couldn't read it. Is there a way to enlarge it? The prior tape, that, yeah, I can't see it from back there. That's all I wanted.
Okay.
I mean, because it's not really in the hand, I was trying, I guess I have to come up and speak. All I want to know is how much the rates are going to go up for the years, all I'm trying to figure out.
So Sharon, if you'll turn on the mic and introduce yourself, thank you.
Can I come up twice though, because I need to come up again later, if not, I'll go sit down, my other issues are more important.
Is this regarding the tax rate?
No, it's regarding the zoning ordinances later.
So we don't have, we have citizen comments at the end, but it's a work session with the zoning, so,
I'll just hear what.
and then you can comment at the end if you want to.
I just needed to, I'll just go by that. I don't need to comment, I'll just wait and comment totally at the end.
Okay,
I can't see that very well.
thanks, Sharon.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
No, you're okay. Okay. Anybody else that would like to come up and comment during the public hearing on the 2022 tax rate for the city of Garden Ridge? Okay, if that's the case, we have no other public comments. We will close the public hearing at 6:09 PM. And we'll move on to business items number 3. Approve the .2000091 as the 2022 maintenance and operation rate for the city of Garden Ridge. And council, the way this will work is we need to, are these all roll call votes, Marissa, or?
The approving the maintenance and operation rate and the debt service rate,
Or
number
not.
3 and number 4, you can just do regular. Number
Okay.
5, the ordinance will need to be a roll call.
Okay, so, council, when you want to make a motion, basically just say I move and then to approve exactly what it says on item number 3.
I move to approve a .2000091 as the 2022 maintenance and operation rate for the city of Garden Ridge.
Okay, we have a move to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a move to approve and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. On to item number 4, approve a .069472 cents as the 2022 debt service rate for the city of Garden Ridge. Do we have a motion to approve?
I move to approve .069472 as the 2022 debt service rate for the city of Garden Ridge.
We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I second it.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion from the council? Okay, call it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries for the 2022 debt service rate for the city of Garden Ridge. This next one will be a roll call vote. Number 5, take action on ordinance number 23408, 2022, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Garden Ridge, Texas, adopting a tax rate of .269563 cents per $100, consisting of the approved maintenance and operation rate and debt service rate of assessed valuation for the City of Garden Ridge to be effective for the 2022 tax year, fiscal year 2023. All right, so this, before we ask for a motion, this needs to be very specific in the way it is worded. I think all of you have some notes on that. A couple things I'd like to point out. So, based upon the voter approval rate, in your motion, it'll say a 1.681% increase in the tax rate. That's actually, we need to say that for the legalities of it and the wording of it, but we got to remember that the actual tax rate is a decrease by .035586 from the 2022 tax rate. We have to say it based on the increase, based on the City of Garden Ridge, based on what we want to approve with the voter approval rate, we'll actually see an increase in income from 2021. That's why we need to say it like that. So, with that being said, can I get a motion to approve for what we've just talked about?
I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of .269563, which is effectively a 1.681% increase in the tax rate, and that ordinance number 234-082022 is approved to adopt .269563 as the 2022 tax rate for the city of Garden Ridge.
We have a motion for approval. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any other further discussion on this? Okay, we'll call it to a vote. Roll call vote. Council Place 1, Councilmember Smith is absent tonight. Council Place 2, Councilmember Swint.
Aye.
Council Place 3, Councilmember Valdez.
Aye.
Council Place 4, Councilmember Arvidsson.
Aye.
Council Place 5, Councilmember Bauer.
Aye.
All right, it passes unanimously. Okay, on to item number 4B, ordinance number 6108, 2022, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Garden Ridge, Texas, establishing the drought management plan for the City of Garden Ridge, establishing trigger points and demand reduction measures, providing a variance procedure, providing a penalty for violations of this ordinance, providing a cumulative and savings clause, providing for severability, and declaring an effective date. And we will review this prior to opening up for a public hearing. So what we are trying to do here is align ordinance number 61 with the new water rates, the tiered rates that we approved as a governing body earlier this year, based on what the Water Commission brought forth to us, and based in large part to the work of Jesse working on that. So we found some, when we changed the tiers, we found some discrepancies that we needed to correct, especially as we are in stage 2 of our drought management plan, our water management plan, and possibly having to go to stage 3, depending on what kind of water we get rainfall-wise over the next month. Stage 3 would occur if we needed to sometime in December, actually September 23rd. So, Nancy, did I miss anything on that?
No, I think you covered it well.
Marissa, anything there?
Nope. I just wanted to mention that it still stays with Tier 5. It's just that Tier 5 was changed to begin at 40,000 gallons instead of 45,000 gallons. So the consistency is still there in the same tier.
Thank you. Thanks for pointing that out. And the reason we have to do that is because if we get into stage 3 and stage 4 subsequent, and we apply a 100% surcharge to the money, to the tiers, if you go over 40,000 gallons, we need to do that at the beginning, not in the middle of a billing period. So the billing period ends on the 22nd of each month, and we'd begin it on the 23rd of September if we need to do that. And that's the reason we need to. And let me talk about this really quick, too, so that it's on public record. If we don't have to do this, if we don't have to go to stage 3, I don't want to go to stage 3 with that 100% surcharge. The reason that we would go to stage 3 is if we continue losing our acre feet by the day from the Edwards Aquifer Authority, and we can't pull out of that anymore. And suddenly we're in a predicament where we need to supply water to our customers and our residents, yet we need to purchase back acre feet at the end of the year, which would come at a not regular price, but at a greatly increased price from the Edwards Aquifer Authority. So that's not to build up any kind of coffers, if you will. That is strictly to, if we need to, towards the end of the year, to purchase acre feet back from the Edwards Aquifer Authority so that we can supply our residents and our customers with water. So that's why we would have to do that, and we don't want to. So hopefully the rain keeps up, and that's not a factor for us. Jesse, anything to add since you are a resident expert on this?
Just watching the water usage trends that Stephen has been providing, it's been going down, which has been good. We had a typical Sunday that I thought we should be doing for all the times we're in stage 2. So that looks promising. So I hope the residents, if residents keep doing that, I think we'll be okay. So.
Yeah, I agree. And to remind council and remind everybody out there, myself, Nancy, Jesse as council member number 3, Stephen, and our chairman of the Water Commission, Chairman Jim Mueller, get an email every single day from Stephen Steinmetz tracking exactly how much water we're taking out of the Edwards Aquifer and the Trinity Aquifer every single day, and the trend. And he's calculating as we go along how many acre feet per day, based on being in stage 3 for the Edwards Aquifer Authority, how much acre feet per day they're taking away from us. So, and we are calculating how that proceeds, and if we're going to have enough acre feet left over towards the end of the year to not have to purchase extra. So did I get that right, Jesse? Yes, sir. Okay, outstanding. Stephen, anything to add with that? Okay, great. Okay, so that's explanation of why we need to amend it. Any other questions or comments before we open a public hearing, council? Okay, so we'll move on to item number 4B, number 2, hold a public hearing regarding this change to ordinance number 61/8/2022. You're not required to sign up to speak, but if you do, please sign in with the city secretary after speaking and you are limited to 1 3-minute period. Anybody want to come up and speak? Okay. The public hearing is open at 6:20 PM, and with nobody wanting to come up and speak, the public hearing is also closed at 6:20 PM. So council, I'll open it up to further discussions if needed from everybody here. To my right, Lisa, Jesse, Todd, Kay. Okay? If no further discussions are needed or warranted, can I get a motion to approve the ordinance, the amendment to the ordinance?
I make a motion to approve the changes to ordinance 61 dash 0222, as written, as was explained earlier. How's that?
Okay, so your motion is to approve ordinance number 61-08-2022
Yes.
in accordance with the changes that we've made. Okay. Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion, council? Call it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. On to item number 4B3, discussion take action on, reschedule 4B, or 4C, my bad. Reschedule October City Council regular meeting. All right, so the genesis of this is the TML conference scheduled in San Antonio for the 5th through the 6th of October, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We have talked about this already and how we are encouraging whoever wants to go from council to be able to attend and from city staff to be able to attend. I am attending this year, especially given that it's in San Antonio. Lisa is attending. And do we have any other takers? I know, Kay, you were thinking about a day in there? Okay, so all 3 days? Outstanding. 2.5, okay, great. Todd, I know you were extremely busy.
I'm busy too.
Yeah, I know.
Third or fourth, I could probably answer.
Okay. Jesse? Okay, no worries. But with what's going on with a full agenda on Wednesday, it would be difficult for the three of us in attendance and city staff to return and be prepared for a city council meeting. So we are proposing that we move the October city council meeting to either Tuesday the 11th or Thursday the 13th of October. It's Columbus Day on the 10th, that Monday. I've talked to the city staff, and they're ready to go with doing a council meeting on Tuesday night. We'd be ready for that if that's what you guys approved. We have planning and zoning meeting on Wednesday the 12th, and then we could meet on Thursday the 13th if you guys approve either of those dates. Those are the best we came up with to still meet in October, which I think is really important. So, but the TML conference is also very important. It's going to be well represented with our Northeast Partnership partner cities, and I think it's very important that as many representatives from the city of Garden Ridge get there as possible. So, Lisa, any comments or preferences for the date?
I don't really have a preference. Either of those work. I mean, I would defer to city council, to the city staff. What's easiest for them?
Okay, so I think based on what we talked about over the last 2 weeks, Tuesday the 11th would be our preference. Nancy, is that correct? Does that still stand?
Correct.
Marissa? Okay. Cynthia? Is that okay with you, legal-wise? As far as, are you available?
Can't tell if it went on or not. Unfortunately, the 11th is not a good day for me. I have, actually, the 11th is the one day when I'm usually double booked in the evening, and I do have availability on the 13th.
Okay. That is good information to know. Okay. So based on that, and especially with items in executive session and whatnot, it sounds like the 13th would be a better date. Nancy?
Well, I'm not available on the 13th.
You're not available on the 13th. Okay?
And I mentioned it to Marissa and Nancy already, but I already have a prior commitment that day.
Okay, no worries. Todd, what day?
Prefer Tuesday,
Okay?
but it's only for personal reasons.
Okay? Kay?
I defer to Cynthia, and since Marissa and Nancy indicated either one would work, maybe one more than the other, I would prefer to have Cynthia available on the 13th. I'd also prefer to have Jesse available, but
Okay, and we
I am
don't,
available either day.
you're available either day. Would we have legal representation on the 11th from Dent Navarro?
I can arrange for that.
Okay. All right, I'll defer to Nancy and Marissa on this one.
Yeah.
Did we hear anything back from Kelly Smith as regarding this item on the agenda? I haven't heard anything back from him.
There we go. I suspect that it would be Adolfo Ruiz, more than likely that is available on that Tuesday, just because I know that normally we have trouble with the second Tuesday of the month as a whole, and he's normally available.
Okay, my preference would be, even with Jesse, I know you got a prior commitment, my preference would be on the 13th to have Cynthia here, especially for anything we need to talk about in executive session. So I will reach out to Council Member Smith to see if he's available. Hopefully, he would be available that date as well. But we need to come up with a date. So my preference changes from the 11th to the 13th based on Cynthia's availability. Let's go back around. Lisa?
13th sounds good.
Jesse, I know you're not here. Okay. Are you okay with the 13th, though?
Yeah, there's some topics that could come up that I'll be worried about, but I already got tickets for that night for my wife.
No worries.
So I got to take care of my
No,
wife.
yes, yes, sir. Totally understand.
Yeah, I got you.
Good job.
I already made a commitment with her.
Todd, you good either way?
I'll make it work.
Okay?
The only interference is JV football game, Thursday nights. I don't even, not for sure there's one on that date or not either, so I'm trying to find a schedule. Let's make it work.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna reschedule.
A quorum is the most important thing.
Right, I mean, if without a quorum, we aren't going to be able to meet. This would be rescheduling the regular meeting so you could still have 4 members present to make the quorum.
JV kickoff is at,
Oftentimes about 5:30. I don't know if it's a home or away game. I'll make it work. I'm not gonna reschedule all the city's business over one football game. That doesn't. But you got it.
okay.
Go with the 13th.
Might I suggest this,
Please.
Mayor? I realize that we've got the 11th and 13th going on, and I know that we do need to get that, the meeting set, but if y'all could give me a little bit of ground time or some lead time to see exactly what that coverage would look like, would we be able to then maybe have Nancy or Marissa send out notice saying, hey, here's what we've got, and then you guys can respond back to Nancy or Marissa as to that availability?
Okay. So, yeah, we can decide this next week. Will that work? Okay.
That'll give us a little bit of time to.
Okay. So we're going to punt on this decision, speaking of JV football, and we'll put this on our agenda for next Wednesday night, the 7th of September. Marissa, you good? Okay. That will be good. That way we'll have Kelly's input as well. All right, we'll move on to item number 4D, draft zoning ordinance. This is a continuation of our workshop that we had 3 months ago in May. That was our first workshop. with the draft zoning ordinance. Let me preface this with a couple things. We as a city have worked very hard for the last 2 to 3 years on a new draft ordinance for ordinance number 13 for planning and zoning. A lot of people in the city, on this council, and on the Planning and Zoning Commission have worked many hours over the last couple years putting this together. So Rob, why has it taken 3 months to meet again? Well, a number of reasons. All of us to get together. It's budget season, which is now over, and which is hard. It's summer vacation, and also we had the 4th of July celebration and our 50th anniversary celebration in the middle of all that, which took a lot more than just one day of celebrating. So here we are on the 29th of August to reopen again our work session that we had on the 13th, or on the 25th of May. A couple things we talked about specifically on the 25th of May were short-term rentals and the legality of restricting short-term rentals, specifically a VRBO or an Airbnb within the residential area, whether it's RE, new RE, or RN. What else? We talked about recreational vehicles and the storage thereof, and we talked about a few other things as we went along. So the goal tonight is I would love, as the mayor, to be able to send this to city staff and our city attorney with changes and amendments / deletions put forth and send it to them, if we could. However, a good friend of mine and a 4-star general once told me, General Rand, said, "Hey, Rob, perfect can be the enemy of really, really good." So this ordinance, and especially this draft, is not a perfect document, nor is it meant to be. It's meant to be a living and breathing document that we look at, and it guides the development within the city, and we amend it when we need to, when we see that we need changes. So I'm not saying we don't strive for perfection, but if we are really close, sometimes that is better than waiting to approve something that we think is perfect, because can we ever actually achieve that? And a lot of people have worked very hard to put this forward to get it into, to pass it and get it from a draft ordinance into our new ordinance. If we did that tonight, the earliest that we could have a public hearing on this based on our schedule and how busy the city staff is, as well as we are one person down on the city staff with our assistant city secretary, the earliest we could get this in a public hearing would be November, at the earliest, most likely December, before this could really go forward and we could approve it with a public hearing. So with that, what I'd like to do, first of all, are there any questions with what I just had to say? Okay, if no questions or any inputs, Nancy or Marissa, on that? Okay, so what I'd like to do is open it up and start talking about this with a few specific areas. So let's open up, if you guys are amicable with it, let's talk about short-term rentals right now. So I am referring to right now on the draft ordinance, I'm on page, no, that's not the right page. I am on page, where did I put it? What page? Okay, so page 43 starts talking about short-term rentals, and this is paragraph L. So some background on this. What we had talked about in May was, hey, is this something we want to allow in residential, which would become known as RE, Residential Estate District, and Residential Neighborhood District, RN. Is this something that we would want to allow as a city, short-term rentals, which is a business, which would require a permit? I was incorrect when I said to you in May that, hey, we just went on spring break and the bill that I got from the Airbnb didn't say anything about hot tax or city tax, and that's incorrect. It is embedded within the bill, and there is a hot tax / tax that goes to the city for that. So it would be, just as an aside, a small source of income for the city of Garden Ridge, if this is something that we chose as a governing body to allow. So I stand corrected on that. The legalities of it. Well, in our gated communities, the HOAs, as far as I know that in Wildwind, they do not allow short-term rentals. That's for the HOAs, that's not for us. Is that something that we would choose? HOAs can always be more restrictive than the city. They can't be less restrictive. So that's beyond our discussion here. The legalities of it. We asked Cynthia and Bryce were here, and what we came up with, if I remember correctly, Cynthia, is, well, it depends. And the longer that we go with this, the more chance legally that we would not be able to stand up against litigation if we restricted it, correct? The chances are less and less as we continue on.
Right. The issue with the short-term rental is that, there is constant litigation in this area of the law, and about the time that we get it nailed down, another case goes up, another piece of the case law is built on this. So it is frustrating at best to try to get a good handle on, which way, does the city want to go with this, with the, because there are rulings out there that kind of go both ways, and it just depends on the facts and circumstances. So it is a conundrum at best to figure out a set plan as far as land use restrictions. The law base regarding business restrictions or business regulation is fairly set. There is many things that you can do regarding business regulations of a short-term rental, which is, we adopt an ordinance for collection of the hotel tax. We would adopt an ordinance that says, this will be the permitting procedure, and this is the permitting cost, and, here are the things you have to do to maintain your, your short-term rental, and other similar types of business regulations. Those are more concrete, and we know what to target with those.
Okay, thank you. So I still, to sum up, it depends.
Yes, sir. Isn't that a lovely answer for, yeah, it depends. Everybody's
Okay.
favorite answer.
So it depends. There are things that, in my opinion, are worth standing up and regardless of whether it depends or not, if it's in the best interest of the citizens of Garden Ridge and our residents and people that live here, our local community, if it's in the best interest and we need to stand against something, then we will. Regardless of whether it depends upon our chances in litigation, we'll make a stand. I don't think that this is necessarily one of those cases. You guys have known me long enough to know that I'm not a big fan of creating a solution to a problem that has yet to exist. So I'm not saying that short-term rentals in the form of an Airbnb or a VRBO, which are basically one and the same, just a different company, but the business would be the same because they can be represented on both, then I'm not saying that that couldn't turn into a problem, but I'm saying right now that the problem doesn't exist. So a solution to a problem that doesn't exist, I'm not a big fan of making a law in the form of an ordinance that would restrict that. I just did it over the weekend in research for tonight. When you do a search VRBO for Garden Ridge or Airbnb for Garden Ridge, nothing within the city limits pops up. That was the same as we had in May. There are a couple down 3009 closer to Natural Bridge Caverns. I think they were in like Seven Hills Ranch outside of the city limits that were listed as available, which makes sense based on if someone wants to go and spend a few days at Natural Bridge Caverns, then they could have an Airbnb or a VRBO there. So My opinion is to basically leave this as is, but we would add to the usage, to the districts, we'd add RE and RM as far as where they are permitted, which means they be permitted in residential estate, and then, I forget what RN stands for, but residential neighborhoods. So we already have said in the rest of this, we'd say neighborhood commercial, they're permitted, community commercial, mixed use, and community mixed use overlay, so that they would be permitted there. We would add in my opinion, residential estate and residential neighborhood in there, so that we don't restrict that from a resident that wants to open up a business for an Airbnb or a VRBO. And whether or not they're allowed in the HOA is beyond our discussion tonight. That's up to the HOAs. We go into paragraph L and talk at length about short-term rentals and their restrictions, and then a short-term rental operating license. So I would say that, we'll get into this a little bit later on, but short-term rentals would be permit with, or special use permit, or something to that effect. We can decide on that later, depending on how you guys feel, but it would require a permit for for someone to be able to do that. That permit would be granted by the city. Within what's already written in this draft ordinance, it talks about, hey, you have to have everything set up for the hotel tax, proof of hotel. So this is L11A paragraph 5B, proof of hotel occupancy tax compliance with Texas Tax Code Chapter 351 as amended before permit is granted. And then we go in to say, hey, it's an annual renewal. We don't say what that permit license fee is. We talk about inspections, and we talk about enforcement penalty. So, and here's something with a little bit of teeth to it. So if there is a complaint, then that goes, we always need a 24-hour contact, 24/7. Should someone receive a complaint about a noise violation or something, that's one strike. You have 24 hours to correct that. A second complaint talks about, don't do that again, and strike 3 would be the third complaint. We can revoke or work to revoke that permit, and then the owner of the business or the home wouldn't be able to request a new permit for 12 months after that. So again, we would need to come up with those fees and whatnot to make it, to provide the correct restrictions to protect everybody, as you know, the property owner, the business owner, as well as the city and residents around that owner, and regulate it. So I think we would still need to come up with a separate ordinance, Nancy, based on our discussion last week, that would talk specifically to this. Cynthia, anything on that?
We would need the hot tax ordinance as separate, and then we would need to establish fees for the actual permit itself and what the permit is going to look like.
Okay.
But the zoning ordinance itself, I think, contains most of of the actual regulations.
Okay. So there'd be a little bit more work to do once we got or a little bit more work to do if this is where council wanted to go, prior to this happening in the city, which we would do, but certainly prior to getting an application for a business permit for this. Nancy? Right? Yes? Okay.
Yes. We probably would need to have those documents ready by the time this goes to public hearing.
The fees are in this ordinance for everything else, so they would need to be included in this ordinance for short-term rentals as well. So we can remove the fees ordinance eventually.
Okay.
And would we be able to say, hey, press with that tonight, and then that would be ready before the public hearing? Or is that something we need to work out later prior to sending this to staff and attorney?
No, the hotel tax ordinance is relatively uncomplicated in processing and preparing for review to move it forward, so.
Okay. So we could, depending on what the council says after this, send this and be ready to go by the time we do a public hearing with fees and whatnot. Okay? All right, so council, my recommendation, based on my discussion just now, is to leave paragraph L in this section, and it's section 20506, paragraph L, the same, but in paragraph L1, we would add residential estate and residential neighborhood, RE and RN respectively. Those are my only inputs. Otherwise, we would leave it as is. That's my input. Open to discussion. Lisa?
Cynthia, do we have to take a stance on this one way or another?
The direct answer is no, ma'am. There is no requirement that the city regulate short-term rental. It is just a policy decision of the city on if it chooses to, and if it does choose to, how will it do so?
Okay, so that is my kind of interpretation when you say, well, let's not make a law in search of a problem. My sense from the community is that that short-term rentals aren't something that people want. So yes, there's not a problem, but I think once we put the language in there, that can tend to, to raise people's fears around that happening. And as you said, we're sort of in the middle of all of this case law. So are we gonna, make an ordinance that needs to be changed very quickly? Can we just hold off and see where the law lands?
So yes, ma'am. I mean, if that's the, because we have established some areas where we think we are set on sound footing with allowing those short-term rentals. It was just always the issue of the, what I'm going to call the traditionally heavy residential area of the city, that we did not target with these. So again, just a policy decision. There are still areas within the city where short-term rental would be allowed by a right of use, and it's just a matter of, does it go into all residential? Do we want to go there yet? Do we want to bide some time to see if the law changes on that, which way that goes? But again, just kind of policy driven.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so what is your input there then?
My input is I think I'd like to hold until we have more information. I guess that's what makes sense to me.
So are you saying eliminate paragraph L altogether? Yeah. Okay. Because it's currently not addressed in our ordinance. This is why we brought this forward. Okay. All right, Jesse.
Well, I'm opposite. I do believe we need some controls over short-term rentals. I think we need to have it in here. I was going to recommend the same thing, add RE and RN. That was in my notes. And I do have, when I retired from DuPont in 2014, I actually came across a house on Cedar Branch, I believe, that was a short-term rental. And it was a significant income that that place was making. It was for sale. So I actually considered it. My wife talked me out of it, but anyway, so I actually considered it. So I know there's been one in the past and did well financially. So if they can exist, I think we ought to have some control over it. And I think, somewhere where, we know for sure we're getting the hotel tax, type thing. So, and I think we add those two residential areas. I think we're covered with any potential lawsuits, and let the HOA handle the rest. So, my 2 cents.
Okay, so your 2 cents are what we had talked about just now. So add RE and RN into paragraph L1. Okay? Todd.
being that I missed the previous working sessions on this, I'm at a little disadvantage here. That said, I do have some knowledge of a resident in the city that does desire to do a short-term rental and has stated very point blank that if we attempt to restrict it, there will be a lawsuit. Now, fear of a lawsuit, whatever, that's what we pay Cynthia for. If we're trying to restrict it, and forgive me if you smell smoke, that's my brain burning here. If we put in the residential stuff, we're not restricting it, other than we're going to collect tax, make some income for the city, those kind of things. I see that as a plus. The other side of the coin, though, with what Lisa was saying, if we say nothing about it, and we wait and see what the case law is going to be, or we wait and see if it's going to be a problem. You know, I had a rental property in the city here for years. It wasn't short-term rental, it was long-term, year-long lease minimum. And yeah, it can be pretty lucrative, especially in this city. So are we trying to build a solution to a problem that doesn't exist? In some ways, we accomplish the same thing whether we take paragraph L out or we add the residential. You know, the plus side of adding the residential is now we've got some form of control and it's been addressed, and we're not going to come back and try to edit this ordinance 6 months down the road because, you know, we had a spring break college party house row going on and those kind of things. So I guess as a whole, I like the idea of having some sort of control on it. We had the residential statements that you guys were talking about. I think that should cover us at least for the next year or two until we figure out what the case law is going to say and whether it becomes a problem in the city or not.
Okay, so you're in favor of, like Jesse just said, adding RE and RN?
Yes.
Okay. All right, let me clarify something just to make sure. So I was, a week ago, in the last 3 months, I've been in favor of basically eliminating paragraph L. But over the weekend, doing my study with it, just like you said, Todd, I think we accomplished the same, not eliminating it, but we have control as a city by adding RE and RN. And if somebody wants to do it, okay, here's the fee that we're going to come up with, and here are the restrictions. And, you know, right here it says 3 strikes, you're out for a year, but, you know, we could put in more if we needed to. So I changed my opinion over the weekend. So maybe I should have clarified that before. Okay, Kay.
I'm not necessarily opposed to adding those districts because that does give, in my opinion, a legitimate alternative, someone who insists on a short-term rental within the city. But 2 statements I'd like to make. You mentioned earlier hot tax, and for those who might be listening, hot refers to hotel occupancy tax. That's where we accrue that tax revenue. Secondarily, we run the risk of ignoring those of us who do not live in an HOA. Are these Airbnbs or whatever going to go up and down my street? I doubt it. But I just as a general comment, I really don't want to exclude people that do not live in HOAs. I also question, if you reference page 154, to me it's a little vague. We've discussed it, I know, but excuse me. The IRC says that by definition it's 1 night and not more than 30 days. This goes back to a discussion we had on Tech Committee. What happens if someone, you know, has someone they want to rent to and they kick them out, or say, you know, they close out their account for 1 night, then they come back. Then it becomes, in my opinion, to some degree, I don't know that anyone would do this. I'm really looking for worst case scenario. And does it state, you know, month-to-month tenancy? Also, can this be, and I don't understand this, I don't know that it's come up, Cynthia perhaps can clarify. Did we define whether this could be, it's the property owner's home, or can it be a separate property, a separate building on the property? In other words, if I had a building that was, you know, sufficiently, you know, like a quarters or something, could I rent that out as an Airbnb while living in my home? I don't know that that is clear.
That's, okay, so I think that's a good question, Kay, and your comment, part of that was a valid comment. So I don't remember reading in here that it would restrict saying, hey, if you have a, for lack of a better term, a guest suite or mother-in-law suite, if you will, a pool house. I didn't remember reading anything in here that would restrict that. Go ahead, Nancy.
Under B, accessory dwelling, accessory uses located in residential districts shall not be used for commercial purposes other than authorized in legitimate home occupation. So short-term rental would be considered a commercial purpose,
Okay.
Right.
correct, Cynthia?
And the way that we have it's actually set up within just that section of the short-term rental, we do actually limit that, and maybe we can tighten up that definition as well, just to make it understood. It's the actual main dwelling. We just have to make sure that we work it within the existing definitions that we have in the ordinance.
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, that's a really good comment, Kay. Thank you.
So you're telling me you can't rent out my guest house, right? Okay.
Okay. Todd, how you doing on time? I know you got a scout meeting.
The meeting doesn't actually officially start until 7:30, so
Crazy, so we're doing great.
I feel like I got a dash hang out of the assistants.
All right, Lisa. So wait, Kay. So what is your position on it?
My position is, excuse me, my position is if we add the two that you and Jesse discussed, I'm okay with that because that, in my opinion, gives an option and someone can't come and say, we're prohibiting short-term rentals within the city. That may not be who they want to be, but you know, maybe I want to live in somebody else's house too, but oh well.
Sure. Okay. Todd, let me comment on something that you said, just so we clarify the position of the city. Threatening litigation doesn't sway us anyway. We always do what's best for the city of Garden Ridge. Great, awesome. Okay, Lisa, so back to you. We don't need a unanimous vote, but so is your position modified at all or still the same?
No, it's still the same, because
Okay.
I don't think the city of Garden Ridge, our citizens want short-term rentals. And if we don't have to allow them currently, then I'd just rather hold back.
Okay. Okay, any further discussion on it? Okay.
Yes, sir. I would just like to clarify that we strongly and strictly, and if we pass this as we've discussed, that we strongly and stringently enforce the warnings and establish, you know, that, like you said, 2 strikes you're out, 3 strikes you're out. I prefer 2. If I were living, if that person were next to, that structure were next to me, I don't think I want to wait 3. So I'd say 2 and, you know, pull the license or whatever. I'm not trying to antagonize anyone, I'm really not. And I don't know of any of my neighbors that intend to do this. I'm just, again, trying to represent what I know to be part of the city.
Those are great inputs. And the 2 strikes, I actually have written down in my notes. So, Lisa?
Cynthia, can we enforce the 2 strikes? Can we tell a property owner that you cannot use this as you cannot continue in this business in your house? If they've got 2 strikes, if they've broken the rules?
So the answer is yes. If we've got established regulations, you know, for, you know, the business portion of it and how that's going to process, if that's the rule that we established, then yes.
Okay. And it would be the police that enforces this?
Well, here in Garden Ridge, because the police, the PD here does enforce code, so yes, ma'am, it would be,
Okay.
yeah. In other cities where the police department doesn't enforce
Right,
code,
they've
it's
got
the
a
code
code
officer.
enforcement
Right,
officer, yeah.
right.
Thank you.
So I'll add to my original statement and add what Kate, you know, talked about reinforcing, change it to 2 strikes, and also tightening up it's the main dwelling as a rental property, not everything else. So those 2 additions to my.
Sorry, I'm just trying to write some notes down here. Okay, so what I would propose then is somebody make a motion to, actually, we don't need a motion, we just need a consensus. The motion will be at the end to send it to you, right? Okay, so a consensus. The consensus would be that in paragraph, for short-term rentals, paragraph L in 20506, paragraph L1, we would add residential estate and residential neighborhood, RE and RN respectively, to that. The second thing would be paragraph L13A. We would modify that to say 2 citations, and the city is able to revoke the permit for a year. And then we would like further clarification on main dwelling definitions in regards to short-term rentals. Did I get that right, Jesse? Okay, did I get that right? Okay, Todd, you good? Lisa? Okay, so let's ask for consensus then. For what I just said, is there a consensus? So, Lisa? No. Okay, no. Jesse?
Yes.
Todd? Okay, all right. Wow, the voice of dissent. Good. I love it. All right, good. Okay, moving on. All right, here's this one. Changing the wording of heavy industrial, HI. I'm on paragraph 20306A, where we define what I'm sorry, it's page 24. My bad. How we define heavy industrial. All right, currently it says, heavy industrial district is intended to provide a location for manufacturing and industrial activities that may generate some nuisances. Industrial uses are not appropriate adjacent to any residential uses. Traffic generation will likely include heavy vehicles, making access to a minor or major arterial necessary. The heavy industrial HI district should not be permitted adjacent to or within 1,000 feet of any residential district except the agricultural and agricultural homestead AG district. Okay. Is there a way to add, I'm talking to Nancy, Marissa, and Cynthia, open discussion here. Is there a way to add more restrictive wording in there to wit, traffic generation? So if additional traffic generation will adversely impact the city of Garden Ridge, perhaps saying a traffic impact analysis, TIA, would be conducted by the entity requesting a special use permit. Further, the city council will determine if additional results of if the results of the TIA might prove detrimental to the inhabitants of the city of Garden Ridge, or something to that effect. Open discussion.
So what I will say is, yes, I don't know exactly where we would put that within the document, but I think, if because that's one of the things that zoning is designed to control, right? The traffic impact and density, and as that relates to traffic and how much we have moving through the city. So I think that yes, we can get to the requirement of a traffic impact, and what I imagine that this would be is that if the council is the final decision maker on the impact of, of a yes or no vote, based on that traffic impact study, we just need to make sure that within the document that there is some form of relief, some form of a right of appeal. And so, but that goes with any land use, you know, that you place within your zoning or your subdivision regulations, that there is some relief in the event that you can establish some form of good cause. I'm not exactly sure what that would look like, what that language would look like, and how to get it there, but I think that legally we can get it there to make it a requirement, you know, especially because of the special impact of large, heavy-duty trucks, you know, in relation to a heavy industrial zoning area.
Okay, thank you. Marissa, thoughts based on our discussion last week?
My only question was for Cynthia is if we can actually legally require that, but it sounds like we can. Just might be an additional wording somewhere else.
Nancy?
Hadn't thought about it in that aspect as you were talking. That may be a good thing. If we can put it in there, I mean, let's go ahead and put it in. That just gives us another vehicle.
So council, where I'm going with this, you guys probably do the math. Obviously, you can do the math. But the city of Garden Ridge is, according to the briefing that we had a year ago, 78% built out, residential and some commercial and office space. We have a limited amount of commercial and mixed-use property yet to be developed, depending on what the property owners want to do with how it is zoned and our usage in this draft ordinance. Traffic is different from when this original ordinance came about. Our traffic is different now. Anytime, you guys know this, anytime that there's something going on I-35 at any time of day, not just the morning or the evening, we're done. 2252 with Waze and Google Maps blocks. They say, hey, take 2252. Our different smaller arteries with Dora Lane and go in the back way through Selma to get someplace, you're done. It's over. So anything that increases our traffic flow is something that directly affects our citizens. And heavy industrial is going to be extra traffic, and it's going to be extra trucks. Well, Rob, it's zoned heavy industrial. Yep, I got it. However, things change, and the council, as the governing body of the citizens of Garden Ridge, needs to have some sort of trigger mechanism that we can have more data to say yes or no to something. You can Google this. Garden Ridge, we are the only city in Texas that I could find where half of our geographical area is heavy industrial, is a quarry. And oh, by the way, it's the largest quarry in North America. So, and we have a wonderful relationship with our quarry, and we have, due to the Quarry Commission and the hard work of both Hanson Aggregates and the city of Garden Ridge and a lot of residents, we have a great relationship. However, half of our geographic city is the largest quarry in North America. So we're already there. We need to have a voice as a council to say yes or no to certain things. And something that's going to increase our truck traffic, especially now, is something that we need to have a say in. So that's hence my thoughts about putting language in there to give us a vote, to give our citizens a say in what happens there, even with it being heavy industrial. Because we go light industrial and traffic is a factor. Traffic can't have a big impact. But in heavy industrial, as we have it worded right now, it can. So that's where I'm going with this. Enough of me talking. Lisa.
Are we talking specifically about the TIA? I mean, is this the place for it? I mean, could we make the same argument about somebody bringing in a big subdivision and wanting to do a traffic impact analysis to see if we can't recoup, some money for our roads? So, I mean, Nancy's got her hand up.
I think I may have found a place for it. I'm just checking. Okay. It looks like all of our districts have a section 3 that's supplemental development regulations. When you go to section 3, it does talk about your site visibility triangle, and basically that's all it basically talks about.
Do you have a
It-
page number? I'm sorry.
Okay, page 117. Could that be area, Cynthia, where we could add that in and it be related to each and every district?
Well, actually, what I'm thinking of.
More along the lines of that may be a perfectly good area, but I'm thinking of something a little bit more global that says, because Councilwoman Swin is correct, there could be other areas where traffic is an impact, and so we just need to think globally, and as much as we don't want to shift or change any of the numbering and such, it may be that we just have to put in something, within the ordinance that's, that allows council to say, in the event that we find these conditions X, Y, and Z, a traffic impact analysis is required, and, it will be submitted along with, site plans and development plans and, all of those things. Just because you're right, it's not just an issue of just, is it heavy industrial, but any place that there's, or any kind of development that would, have or impact the traffic with a lot more traffic coming into the city.
Pages 16 through 24 are the resident, or the zoning districts, and each one of them has that section 3 supplemental development regulations. So
So we could put the wording in there.
that's what I'm kind of thinking, but of course Cynthia's gonna be the,
Right, yeah, and that's why I say, that may very well be the location of it, but I think the overall thing here is that we need to make sure that we get the traffic impact analysis, in here so that we can make it applicable as necessary across the districts. And Nancy, that was 24 through, pages 24 through,
page 20, let's see, 16 through 20, I'm sorry, the pages are just sticking together here.
I know, that's okay.
Through 25, every one of them refers to a section 3 supplemental development regulations, which that is located on page 117.
Gotcha.
And it does start out, it says the intent of this subsection is to promote safe roadways
Yeah.
by ensuring adequate visibility at intersections, but I don't see why we couldn't incorporate that traffic into that intent or the purpose.
Okay, so what we're saying is that in section 2, subsection 201, which is zoning districts, we would put wording in there, which is pages 16 through 25, to add a traffic impact analysis, or what would we do?
No, I think the wording's already there.
Okay,
Supplemental development regulations.
right.
And then that developer is going to have to go to section 3, which is entitled Supplemental Development Regulations, and add that into that section.
So in that section, we would add,
Whatever language we need to incorporate
Right.
for TIA? What would trigger it?
Okay, would we have enough with a consensus to direct that as council and that city staff with the mayor and city attorney would go through and set the language prior to the public hearing? Would that suffice with the intent? So we're talking adverse effects to the residents of the city of Garden Ridge. That could include adverse effects of traffic, which we would require a traffic impact analysis done by the permit request, the entity requesting the permit. Something to that effect. Cynthia, you're
Yes.
nodding your head? Okay.
Sorry, I'm trying to make sure
No
that I
worries.
make my notes here
Yes, ma'am.
as well.
Marissa, anything popping out as the city secretary?
No.
Okay. Council, further discussion on that. That's a great discussion. That's a great ad. Todd, you look like you had something to say.
Again, since I wasn't at the working sessions, I'm at a very distinct disadvantage on this. I can tell you that no citizen wants any heavy industry in the city. So first off, the thing in my mind is do we have to allow any? Could we get creative in our zoning and say the quarry can exist until it's played out and then that's going to become residential?
Well, yeah, you got to turn the mic on. So, I mean, the quarry began in 1996 or 1936, well before the city of Garden Ridge or very many people were here. I mean, the originals were here. And it's got nine decades left of product to bring out of it. So it's going to be around for a long time. And, oh, by the way, there are little pieces of the quarry property that are zoned light industrial, just according to the color of the map, the zoning map, but the vast majority of it is heavy industrial and of the property that they own. So half the city of Garden Ridge is zoned heavy industrial. We can't just say no, right? So,
But we can look at the uses within
Yes.
heavy industrial.
which is exactly what
Right, that's
we're
where we're
gonna
heading
do.
next,
Right.
I think, yeah.
But, okay, so what we are talking about as a council is to add language in paragraph or in section 3 to, that if something is detrimental to the citizens of the city of Garden Ridge, such as traffic, that steps will be taken to assure that council is briefed on those impacts, and council will determine what to do with those. Does that work? Something to that effect will work on the language?
Yes, sir.
As Cynthia frantically types notes in our working session. I think are we good with that? Lise, you good? Consensus? Jesse? Todd? Okay? Okay, good. All right. It's good. We're getting really good work done here. All right. The next thing I would like to talk about is, as Lisa just mentioned, usage. So now I am referencing, let's see, section 205, use regulations, and specifically now I am on page 28 of 161. And what I'd like to do is go through and ask some specific questions about how certain things are zoned usage-wise, and perhaps make some modifications or clarifications or additions to these charts. Everybody good with that? Yes? Okay. Lisa?
Yes, Nancy and I did have a chance to sit down and look at this as well.
Okay.
And go over that. So you want to actually skip over to page 29, because you're already on residential. 28 is just residential.
Right, so I'm on, so we're on 29 now. And go. Do you have inputs?
Nancy, do you want to go down the list of what kind of we were thinking? I want to say in general, though, when you're looking at heavy industrial, I mean, it says right in the definition that industrial uses are not appropriate adjacent to any residential uses. And of course, that's already happening. We've got Regency Oaks, we've got the Weiss family, it's all surrounded by industry. So when Nancy and I were looking at it, we were looking at uses that would not have air pollution, noise, traffic. You know, there's heavy industrial that we can put in there that doesn't provide a toxic environment. So that was kind of what we were keeping in mind. And there were some questions that we wanted to throw around as well, so.
You want me to go through the
Yeah.
chart?
You guys go. How about it?
Okay. There were no proposed changes for page 29. Move to page 30. And you see automobile and other motorized vehicle sales. Those were only allowed in light and heavy industrial by special use permit. We recommend taking taking that use out of both of those districts.
So say that again specifically, so we're on,
Automobile and other motorized vehicle sales,
okay.
taking that use out of light and heavy industrial.
Okay,
We were okay with the other uses that were listed under light and heavy on that page. Then we moved to page 31. The
Okay.
first one is a brewery, a microbrewery. We propose to eliminate that from the heavy industrial, take that out, allow it to stay in light industrial, and move it to our community commercial district under a special use.
You know, the thinking there was that that's the kind of business we would like in our commercial district. You know, it would be akin to a brew pub, you know, Rebecca Creek Winery or Distillery, those kinds of things. If we can push them over into that district instead of giving them keeping them out of heavy.
so I had some inputs on that line too, based on our discussions last week, right? So what is a microbrewery? What's the definition of that? And so my thoughts would be, why wouldn't we leave that in heavy industrial? If somebody wanted to build a microbrewery in heavy industrial, knock yourself out. Why wouldn't we leave that? Further, I totally agree with adding it to community commercial district, but why wouldn't we add it to neighborhood commercial district and mixed use? So mixed use, so to clarify that, mixed use is what we have proposed for that 62-acre parcel that someday would be available, or, I mean, whoever owns it now, right? That's what we have proposed zone of mixed use for. Remember, in our master development plan, that was the gateway to Garden Ridge. And you enter in there, and it's mixed use with possibly residences above a restaurant, a retail store, or something to that effect, which would be allowed in mixed use according to our draft. And you can see the 60, the light blue up there, mixed use. So
So that's mixed use, community mixed use is which one is that, the blue?
yeah, so I was thinking add it to neighborhood commercial district, and what you said, community commercial district, so NCCC and neighborhood mixed use overlay district, NMU. With the thoughts that, well, what if Alamo Brewing Company wants to come in, and, because we are actively recruiting them, what if they want to come in and they go, hey, we'd like to open up a small microbrew in that acreage, that mixed use you've got there someday. Nancy?
Now, your neighborhood, forget what it's called now, okay. Neighborhood commercial district, that is more in line with your office type.
Okay.
So do you really want to start putting retail into the area that is, predominantly an office, that area zoned for offices, but also abuts your residential area?
Okay, that's, I mean, totally valid. So I was thinking, why wouldn't we want a place to go that, you know, along the section that's pretty well developed on that northern part of 2252, why couldn't we have a restaurant or a brewery or something to that effect there? But I see your point, because that does abut up to residents. So, okay, good discussion. Okay.
Quick note, microbrewery by definition has less than 15,000 gallons a year, and they must sell not less than 75% of their product off-site. Don't know if that impacts our people. I don't have their stats.
Huh. Okay. So it sounds like, what about, okay, so Nancy, what about neighborhood mixed use overlay district?
Oh, I think your mixed use areas,
Both of them.
yeah, that you could do something like that, and definitely in our community commercial district.
Okay, so we would, what we're talking about here is we would leave NC as X'd out, neighborhood commercial. We would add S to community commercial district, CC.
Yes.
We would add S to neighborhood mixed use and MU overlay district.
And did you want to keep that in heavy industrial?
So I'm not either way on that, but why wouldn't we have that as a use in heavy industrial, just as an option for it? Maybe the Hanson Brewery, sorry, just,
I guess when Nancy and I talked about it, we were talking about where we would think that makes sense. We'd rather have that in the, you know, the community commercial district than out by the quarry. You know, that would take away one option for them.
I know, but how are we gonna get an aggregate pale ale? So, I'm
That sounds so dusty to me, it just sounds terrible. I mean, it's not, you know, it doesn't make a difference one way or another, but that was kind of our thinking.
okay, no, I'm with you. Jesse, Todd, Kay?
I don't know, just looking something up.
I guess it's really gonna be, what are you defining as a microbrew? If we're talking a brew pub, they're not gonna wanna build it in the industrial area. If you're building a small brewery, who cares where it goes? You're not gonna have people partying in there, you know, they might host events at it, but even then, that's the primary thing they're doing there is making beer. The brew pub is when you're in there eating and, you know, you get your, yeah, that's what we want in our community area.
Our
And this is listed
definition,
as a tasting, it has office brewing and a tasting room.
All right, it's just discussion, I am not either way, so, so what it sounds like we're saying is add it to commercial, community commercial, add it to neighborhood mixed use. It's already in community mixed use, and then take it out of heavy industrial. Is that what consensus is? Yeah, I'd just leave it.
I'd rather have a brewery as heavy industrial and, you know, like some beer trucks coming in and out as opposed to, say, pick another heavy industry.
Okay. That's good. All right, sounds like we have a consensus. Okay? Okay. Lisa, keep going. Page 31. Oh, Nancy,
Okay.
you're on a roll.
same page. The next one is full-service car wash. It was allowed under community commercial district, and it's recommended that we just don't allow a full-service car wash. And in the same thing, a car wash self-service in that community commercial district.
My notes say that we talked about putting it in light industrial.
The car wash self-serve is in light industrial, but.
Oh, yeah.
You know, a full service is gonna be more like your wash tub type
Right.
facility.
So what I had on my notes was to add full-service car wash to light industrial, rather than have it Xed out. Oh, okay.
Do we want a wash tub on 2252?
It'll get awful
Okay.
dusty down there after it gets
Yeah, I
washed.
mean, we're
Okay.
trying to pick the,
Obviously, I got
I don't know, if
two
you're ever
looks on that one, so never mind with the, okay, so what do you guys want to do? Take both full service and self-service out of community commercial. Is that what you guys said?
yes.
And then leave self-serve in light industrial?
Yes.
Yes?
Self-serve is a one where you drive in, wash the car, but then you have to dry it and vacuum it, right? Type thing?
Yeah, that kind that nobody uses anymore.
Just want to get
So you guys want to go, okay?
I'm ambivalent on that, only because we're a very water-conscious city, and I don't know who's going to monitor those, you know, whomever puts in that facility, if they're going to do a good job of monitoring the hoses left on and all that. Plus, is that another 24-hour, you know, structure, you know, building, a business that I'm not in favor of?
Okay.
So,
So-
I don't see the point for car washes in our city, period.
Okay, so you would want to eliminate car washes, period. Okay,
That's correct.
all right. Lisa?
I could agree with eliminating them, period, thinking about the water usage and trying to monitor that. That's legit.
Todd, I
That's
just heard a yes out of you, based on the water?
Just based on water usage, you know, I mean, these things blow hoses out. By the way, I do use the one that's over there by,
Oh, you do?
Raton.
Yeah, okay.
Because it's cheap. But the hoses blow out, I've been there, seen water spray out over because it's broken, and yeah, it's a very real concern. So,
Jesse? Okay, all right, so we are taking car washes out, period. Is that right? That's the consensus? Yep, all of them. Okay. Nancy, keep going.
Okay, the next one was at the bottom of that chart on page 31, there's contractor yard or storage. Recommend taking it out of the light industrial and leaving it for heavy industrial.
Okay.
That is gonna be where the contractors are stacking their pipe up, their yard materials, and that may be a little discouraging for a business that may want to go into the light industrial.
Yeah, we actually have a picture of it somewhere in here. Yeah, so I'm completely good with that. Council? Okay, out of light storage. I have one comment on, still on page 31. Ceramic, pottery, or glass studio. We have it X'd out for neighborhood mixed use. My input would be change that to permit, P. Good, okay? All right. Marissa, are you checking all this? So P added to ceramic, pottery, or glass studio in NMU. All right, on to page 32.
Okay.
Nancy?
Page 32, a distillery micro. Recommended that we special use permit that one in the community commercial district. And now that we've done the brewery, the microbrewery, do we want to carry the same, carry a micro distillery out the same as a microbrewery?
I would say yes.
Okay.
So we'd add S, special use permit, to community commercial to neighborhood mixed use, correct?
And we allowed the microbrewery in heavy industrial.
That's right, we changed heavy industrial to a P as well.
Okay.
All right, and we didn't talk about it because it was already there. In microbrewery, it was allowed in community mixed use. And
Neighborhood mixed use.
yeah, but we have it
Oh.
X'd out as micro distillery in CMU, community mixed use. When we make that an S?
Yes.
Okay, so we copy the other ones. So like Jesse
Yes.
just said, so special use on community commercial, neighborhood mixed use, community mixed use, and add it to heavy industrial. Okay, everybody good? Yeah, okay. Keep going, you're on a roll.
Okay, equipment sales.
Go.
Recommended that we just don't allow equipment sales here in the city. Or in the heavy industrial as we've got it shown on the chart.
Okay, council? Okay,
Okay.
we put an X there. Keep going.
Okay, gasoline filling or service station car wash. In other words, this would be a car wash connected to a service station. It would be allowed in community commercial as per the chart. It's also allowed in community mixed use as a special use, and then our chart up here shows it allowed in light and heavy industrial. Recommendation was to remove it from light and heavy industrial and leave it in the community commercial district and the community mixed use overlay district.
Okay, council? Well, I'm looking for a couple things.
Again, one of the things we talked about with this one was not putting a gas station along there that would impact Regency Oaks.
Increased traffic.
Increased
and-
traffic and chemical, all of that goodness.
So this line is for the filling station as well as the car wash?
Yes.
They're both, right? Not just, okay.
Filling station or or service station
Station, yeah.
car wash,
Yeah, okay,
with a car wash.
with car wash.
With.
Personally, I'm opposed to a gas station in the city, period. I have a question for Cynthia. Given the Shell, they would I would assume, be grandfathered if they were to remain where they are. But what if they have to move their tanks because of construction? Must they start over and therefore they would be disallowed?
No, ma'am, that wouldn't be how that worked. Because they're not moving of their own volition, they're moving because, of an order from the state.
So they're sort of there in perpetuity if they choose to be.
Right, until such time as they go out of business or, something else changes.
Okay. Once again, I'm not in favor of any gas station within any city limits, our city limits, I mean.
Yeah. And one of the things that we do need to remember as we're working through the charts is, if there is a use that the city just doesn't even want to entertain, it may be a better way to approach it as to just remove that use in its entirety from the chart, don't list it at all as the chart, and then we would have to treat that as a new or unlisted use and go through that process, as contemplated in the ordinance.
Okay, thank you, Cynthia. Why do we have in there, one is permit with E, which is fuel pumps, the other one is special use permit,
I
E.
think it's because of the type of overlay district. The special use goes into an overlay district, the community mixed use. There would be some residential in there potentially.
Okay. Okay, we have your input. You would eliminate that whole use, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Lisa?
I'm okay with the gas station. I'm just looking at where it would best fit.
Okay, do you have inputs on, would you leave it in commercial, community commercial and CMU? Okay. Jesse? Oh, that was a pitch. Todd?
I'm still thinking as well. A correctly done filling station, car wash in the areas that were indicated already, I think would be okay. I don't have a great love to have a gas station in the heart of our city anywhere. And if we can control it and limit it and not have 4 gas stations, one on each corner of the 2252 3009 intersection, that would be perfect.
Jesse?
Yeah, one thing about the aquifer distance, it would be 1,500 feet from the tower. That helps keep it away from that intersection. So that eliminates that area considerably. And then you go down 2252 when you get to the other water, storage tank, that limits it around there. So, yeah, it's either leave it in certain areas or take it completely out and handle it the way Cynthia said. You handle it on special requests by the other process there. And that way it's not showing up in any particular area. So I could go either way.
All right, Cynthia, say it one more time. If we took it out as a use, then we have a gas station. And how does that work?
Right, so the gas station that's currently existing has been in existence and was in existence prior to our ordinances going into effect. So it remains as non-conforming because it was there first. Kind of the same way the issue we have with the quarry. It was there first, and so we have to kind of adjust to those things. What we're talking about now is controlling new uses or something new, being built or established or developed within the city. And so the things that we have to be careful of is simply because we don't have it listed as a use doesn't necessarily mean that somebody can't approach the city, with its plan or its development. But they would have to go through those separate processes in the ordinance regarding new and unlisted uses. So the use chart, because you can never get it like 100% correct for every possible use that anybody could think of, listed in the chart. And so, if we take those things out that we're just not real sure of, or we don't have a great deal of consensus on, then maybe the better way to address that is through the new and unlisted, and then just deal with it if it actually becomes a problem, rather than wrestling with something that might be so nebulous that we're not real sure what we want to do with it.
Okay. Nancy? Thoughts? Sorry, I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
No, I think with that aquifer protection district, I have to agree with what Jesse has said. It's gonna be a little difficult with that 1,500 foot, or is it 1,200?
It's 15.
1,500 foot radius. Even as you move on down 2252. And Easy Mart would be a non-conforming use, and they're gonna be able to stay in that location, so there's your service station. But I think it is gonna be very difficult.
Lisa, anything else? This is a tough one.
No, I agree with all of that. I was looking down at 3009, if there's,
Because of wells 9 and 10, that would be hard.
right, right. I mean, I'd say let's take it out and address it if we need to.
Yeah, I kind of like, I'm more and more thinking about it, way Cynthia described the process, if it wasn't there at all, then, unused listed, it kind of leaves us leeway in the future. It's still there if somebody wants to approach us, but it doesn't have to, we don't have to make a decision today on that, we can actually address it on a one-on-one basis.
Yeah.
So it kind of leaves us a little leeway there, so I kind of
So
like.
Todd, you're
taking it.
nodding with that?
Yeah, what Cynthia said, I kind of like that idea, because
Okay.
it does, in my mind, it puts us in the driver's seat
Yep.
for, you want to build a what?
And future councils in the driver's seat, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the consensus is that we remove gasoline filling or service station / car wash as a usage. Is that correct? Okay.
Correct.
All right.
Wait, still on page 32, farmers / open air market. Why wouldn't we allow that in neighborhood mixed use? With a special permit?
I think we could. I don't see objection to it.
So it'd be a smaller market than the one
Right.
we currently have, which is the largest in South Central Texas on a monthly basis, by the way. But you could have a smaller one walking through that 62 acres of welcome to, the gateway to Garden Ridge on Saturday morning, right? Are you guys good with that? Okay, okay.
So add that as special use under neighborhood mixed use?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Page 33.
all right. Page 33 was grocery convenience store. And the proposal was to take that out of light industrial district to heavy industrial, but leave it in your community commercial and your community mixed use. However, I believe I wanted to look up. We would need to specify or make sure that this, the definition is 7,000 square foot floor area sells food and other consumable and non-consumable products for off-premise use or consumption. We just, most of your service stations have the convenience stores associated with them.
Right.
Are you saying to match what we just did, to take that out as a usage?
So what's the difference between the convenience store and market? I can't-
Market was a retail establishment that is between 7,000 and 15,000 square feet of gross floor area, primarily selling packaged and perishable food, as well as other convenience and household goods.
My vote would be to,
Examples?
I know, it's like
Yeah.
big one, small one.
What
so
you
a
see
grocery
now is-
convenience store would be Easy Mart without gas.
Yeah, that's what it would have to end up being.
So, okay,
Just FYI, Trader Joe's averaged 8,000 to 15,000 square feet. That gives you an idea of a mini. Whereas when we're going to grocery supermarket, that's 144,000. That's like our H-E-B shirts, is 144,000 square feet. So I think if we allow a market, you can call Walmart, for example, has a market prototype, not necessarily call it convenience. I think we can consolidate. So we don't have a whole bunch of like a convenience store here, a market there, somehow by definition, somehow by definition, straighten that out.
I wanted to make sure that most of your convenience stores are associated with gas pumps.
Correct.
And we've said we didn't want gas pumps. So,
yeah, I think to be consistent, we take grocery convenience store out as a usage.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
okay,
Lise?
correct.
Okay, all right,
okay,
keep going.
all right.
So,
Walgreens, CVS, what do those
Those are
count as?
drugstores, I think, or
Oh,
pharmacies.
do we have a drugstore-ish, do we?
No,
No, we don't have a,
we don't.
or retail store, shop?
Yeah, that one's gonna be more retail.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be retail.
So we should address supermarket. I recommend we eliminate that entirely, because by definition, that's huge.
But by our definition. By our definition.
Our definition, but why do we want, okay, why do we want to call it a market or okay, I'm going to our definition. Okay, help me out here. You don't need to listen to me turning pages.
That was greater than 15,000 square feet in floor area.
Right, right. And we talked about that being, not unlike the retail thing we talked about, that would be like a Best Buy, something like that, so, just FYI.
So are we going with keeping,
Oh, okay, so our definition, a market between 7,000 and 15,000 square feet. That is the, hey, stop for dinner on your way home, prepackaged stuff. Let's get some good cheese, let's get a bottle of wine, blah, blah, blah. And, oh, by the way, there's some flowers there that Rob can grab too and be a hero. I love that. Grocery supermarket would be Trader Joe's. Why?
No, by definition, a Trader Joe's fits within that market size. I just use that as an example.
How big is Trader Joe's? It's bigger than
Average
15.
15,000 square feet,
Okay.
average.
Oh,
Average.
okay, all right,
I have an idea.
go.
Why don't we combine maybe say grocery slash supermarket?
No, but not to exceed. I don't want to see 140.
And then to put a square footage limit in there. And then you only have one of them.
That'd be fine. My point is, if we allow supermarket by definition, that's just too big, I think. Just like we talked about retail big box. We don't want a Best Buy, no offense, Best Buy, if you're listening. We don't want a big box store.
Okay, so what do we want to do then? You said, Nancy, combine the two?
Yeah, I mean, if we want to call it grocery slash market
Yeah,
and define the square footage.
I'm good with that. Lisa?
So what square footage minimum and what square footage maximum?
I don't think you need to say minimum, because I don't think anybody necessarily.
Yeah, let's just say up to 15,000 feet, just square feet, just based on a Trader Joe's is
Yeah.
8 to 15.
Right, and if we talk Trader Joe's and coming here and they want 16,000, I believe we'd approve it.
Why not give it a little bit more space in case there's some sort of a market that's kind of comes up in the next year or
So,
two,
20?
that there's more room.
Not to
20.
exceed 20,000
20.
square feet.
20.
That's a good point.
20.
I like it.
20.
Todd, you doing okay? Thanks for hanging. 20? Okay, so we're going to we're going to combine grocery market / grocery supermarket into grocery market up to 20,000 square feet. Good. Yay.
You're catching all this too, right, Marissa?
Yeah. So what about grocery convenience store? Are we leaving that? Are we combining all three of them?
gone.
Are we removing it?
Convenience is gone.
Okay, so remove convenience and combine the market and supermarket.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, but are y'all good with the?
Good. Press.
Well, okay, so we're gonna keep in the same districts and all, right? it's felt, or it's recommended that we look at both the definition of heavy industrial or manufacturing operations. That is on page 126. 143, and its definition 126. Give everybody a few minutes to read that.
Okay, how would you amend it?
How would I amend it?
Or what's your input?
I would say, or my input would be limited to mining and quarrying operations of aggregate materials, but legal counsel, how do you feel about that?
We will tighten that up. We'll work with that language and make it as tight as we can to address just mining and quarrying.
I'm totally good with that. Yeah?
Okay.
Okay. All right, so we're tightening up that language. Great. Nancy, you are still on, and you're on a roll, by the way.
Okay, let's go down to laundry commercial. Recommended to take it out of light and heavy industrial both. One thing that was discovered is we don't have a definition for that in our definition section, and so I think it could be taken in two different ways. One being a location where your neighborhood laundries take the laundry to a larger facility, and that's where it's actually dry cleaned. And then there's also the thought, there was some discussion in technical committee that would be the place where people would take like their oversized, like a laundromat. Do we want a large commercial laundry facility here? We allow the standalone drop-off and pickup locations for dry cleaning.
By either definition, the fact that it might be their processing plant, for example, Dutch Boy, their processing plant, or if it's a washateria / laundromat, we can give them referrals to two perfectly good ones, one on Pat Booker and one over by the old post office in Shirts. I don't think there's a need for it. I don't think people within Garden Ridge would utilize it, and it becomes anybody and their mother come in and bring their dirty laundry and so on and so on. I just don't think it's a maintenance. If you don't have the right people to maintain them, they get pretty tacky pretty quick.
Could end up being, a huge water user.
Right. So I recommend.
Some of those are up in 24 hours a day.
Yeah, I recommend eliminating it.
Todd just gave a nod. Jesse? Lise? See ya.
The next thing is the definition of light industrial. Needs to be, I believe it needs to be tightened up also. I look at this and does this tell me that someone that is,
We're on page
Once-
145, by the way.
yes, for the definition, I'm sorry. What I can read into it is, say there's someone who wants to bring some kind of petroleum product in and process it. I mean, to me, it's pretty broad.
Cynthia, can we tighten that up at Dent Navarro and Company?
So yes, or what I'll say, we'll get it as tight as we can legally make it.
Nancy, does that suffice?
Huh?
Does that suffice, that one?
Yeah.
Okay, council, good?
And I recommend whatever the definition ends up being, that we leave the special use, that whatever it is, it needs to have a special use if it's a light industrial process.
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.
Page 34. We only have a
Couple pages.
couple of pages left. Non-depository financial institution or payday lending establishment. Recommended that we just leave that in heavy industrial, period.
I'm good.
Take it out of light industrial. Is that a problem with that, Cynthia? Because I know we have to provide a location.
Yep, that's definitely one we have to provide a location for, so that will work.
All right, everybody
Okay.
good? Okay, Jesse?
Nick?
Okay.
Sorry.
Nope, you're good. Keep going.
Pawn shop. Recommend we take it out of commercial community district, out of light industrial, and leave it in heavy industrial district only.
That is exactly my notes right there.
Because that's another place that we need to provide a location for.
Everybody good?
For another
Okay,
use.
keep going.
Okay, let's remove portable building cells. Do we want to have portable building cells in the city?
What about my mini house? Okay, no, I'm good with that.
Okay.
Good?
Then the next item would be, well, let's see. Oh, yeah, okay. The recreational vehicle park, recommend we just strike that out as well.
I'm good. We can, yes, to the last two that we've taken out, Cynthia. I mean, are we under legal authority to? They can always come to us with a special use request, right?
That's true.
Okay,
That's true.
I'm good with saying bye. Okay? Bye.
Under restaurant or cafeteria, bar, tavern, it's recommended leaving everything where it is, but however, we do need to change the designation to S-J.
Okay? I concur.
We ready to move page 35?
One moment.
Okay.
Maybe they have any input on the retail, big box retail?
Rob, I'd like to ask something really, if I may, right now.
Yeah, ask.
I know you wanted Nancy to go through, but I have additional ones and I didn't want to interrupt. I have,
Oh,
but, no, but I'd rather go back and go faster, just page by page. And I don't mean literally page by page, but just about 4 additional ones. I mean, just so you know.
okay.
Okay.
Are we ready for page 35? Okay, we're gonna keep short-term rental in here. And then the last one I have here is the winery, the micro winery. Do we want to keep that in line with what we've done with all the,
Yes.
with the others? Okay.
Yes. We need to add RE and RN to,
Yes,
so
yes.
PL.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got those on here, yes.
So, I'm sorry, repeat short,
So short-term rentals, remember, we're gonna add it PL, so permit
right.
to residential RE and RN.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I had a question. So with stadium stuff, public and institutional district, what's our plan for that? Where? I didn't see any, can I see that really quick?
I think we thought that those would more be along the lines with the school, or perhaps a church. something of that nature.
Okay, I don't need to have anything changed on there, I was just merely asking the question. All right, Nancy, anything else? That completes the usage charts for your inputs.
Yes, that completes mine.
K,
Yes.
do you have specific inputs for the usage chart that you just, isn't that what you just
Correct.
talked about?
Just real quick.
Let's go at it.
So, okay. Page 29, outdoor amusements. I propose we eliminate for outdoor paintball and go-kart. We don't allow projectiles in the city anyway. Why would we allow paintball? And I've had a personal bad experience with paintball in the city. And I think go-karts are obtrusive and certainly noisy. You can't have a quiet go-kart. And that will carry, I think, as a nuisance.
And that was in in the definition, correct?
Correct. That's in the definitions.
So what,
Amusement comment out.
you want to amend the definition then, that's what you
Correct.
said? Okay.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to the, and then the same on indoor. Just a question, if we're going to allow, this again is in the definitions, climbing wall and indoor skydiving, somehow that makes me think it's going to be pretty darn tall, and I think that might go beyond our height requirements and height restrictions within the city. So maybe we should consider eliminating that, those two. In other words, clarify the definition.
Okay, so what would you change on both of those?
I would just eliminate paintball and go-kart out of outdoor definition and indoor definition. I'm not opposed to a climbing wall or indoor skydiving. I just question whether that's reasonable within our height restrictions for our buildings. I mean, it's gonna be pretty darn tall to be indoor skydiving, I would think.
Yeah, I think that the iFly place on 1604 is higher than that, right?
Yeah, it's probably like not, you know,
So I'm good with paintball and go-kart racing, taking those out. Council? Yes. You guys good? And
I don't care on, I'm just concerned about the height. I'm not opposed to either. I know a climbing wall is a good thing, but I'm just not sure, you know, you're gonna climb
I have a
one
question
story or
for Cynthia
12 stories.
about the paintballing and the go-kart. Just because we remove it from this definition, does that necessarily mean that it wouldn't be allowed anymore? Because this definition just says including but not limited to, and it's giving examples. Wouldn't a paintball field and go-kart racing still fall under that general definition of an amusement enterprise? And therefore it'd still be allowed whether we said it or not?
I think the way that good point, the way that we do have it set up is, you know, giving just a general parameter, something like that. I mean, if we want to eliminate that, we can, but again, remember that we always roll back to anything that we eliminate, always, you know, the new and unlisted use is going to be an issue. So if we want to eliminate that, now's the time, but just know that there's always that possibility.
Whatever.
okay, so I'm still good based on that. It was a really good comment, Marissa. Thank you for that. But I'm still good with paintball, field, go-kart racing being taken out, and indoor skydiving. Everybody good? Okay, good. Okay, keep going. You're on a roll.
Sure. Page 32, food trucks. And to me, it's not clear as to whether or not this would be, what the intent is, whether it's permanency, whether it's going to allow, because like on Austin Highway, there's some, excuse me, I don't have the thing on Austin Highway, there's some food truck parks, but those are permanent overnight parking where they park their trucks, whether they're open, and they are open, for example, on the weekends, but their trucks are parked there. Is that what we're looking for, or are we looking for a welcoming park for food trucks to come for maybe once a month or something like that? I think that's our intent. That's my impression, which I'm not opposed to at all, but I don't necessarily want food trucks and all that parking there overnight.
So there is a food truck just outside of city limits by that restaurant in Bracken. That breakfast taco truck is always parked there. I don't, I mean, if we had a specific place for these to go, I mean, it's basically like a restaurant that we would depend on and you know where it's at. I haven't stopped yet for breakfast tacos because I'm usually late on my way to the base, but if I had time and better planning, then I might stop there. So I'm okay with the definition as it is, but I mean, I like your comment. But anybody else with that?
I'm okay as is.
Todd? Jesse? Okay. So no comments? Leave as is, or? Okay. All right. The consensus would be to leave it as is. Kay, keep going.
I think we can, on page 33, I think we can eliminate heliport. I don't think we need a heliport.
Oh, we did scratch
I
that out.
missed that
Yeah,
one.
we had scratched that out.
I think we can
We're
get rid
like,
of the
what word?
heliport. I
Yeah.
go,
There goes
I
mine.
go, yeah, I go
Five
north, I go
commercial
north up to
pad
Bat
caves.
Cave for
Yeah.
that, yeah.
We scratched that.
Okay.
Todd, you're gonna have to find another place to put your helicopter.
Okay, page 35, the shooting range, I'm not a fan. I don't think we need, there are plenty of shooting ranges around here, and I personally don't think we need a shooting range. Plus, if it's an outdoor shooting range, we don't, once again, we don't allow projectiles, that would be a gun as well. So I would rather eliminate shooting range outdoor at least, at the very least.
Well, one of the best tactical ranges around is in the Hanson Quarry and
Right.
within
Right,
city
well, that would be
limits.
permitted because it would be grandfathered, correct, Cynthia? Or,
And where's the shooting range that's actually existing now that we go to at the air park is actually outside of city limits. It's in Schertz ETJ.
Okay.
There's
Yeah.
and the Bracken one is not in our city as well.
So I'm not in favor of eliminating that. I think it should stay. Specifically because there's one at Hanson that we use at least twice a year as a police
So
department,
if we take that,
run by Comal County.
But can't we use, can we not preserve that one and disallow future ones? That's all I'm asking. I'm asking for legal opinion on that. I don't want to be, I don't want to see somebody going down to, next to Winco and opening up a shooting range. They'll be aiming at, you know, Penchmark or something. Well, I'm not, I said.
yeah, but it wouldn't be allowed in that area.
What?
It wouldn't be allowed in that.
So it's
that area.
heavy industrial.
Okay, I'm giving you my input.
Okay.
And it would have to require a special use permit too.
Still got to come through us. Keep going.
Stable, I believe we should eliminate. Darn it, I believe we should eliminate stables. We don't allow equine in the city. I don't know why we would allow stables and boarding facility. I'm all in favor, but, and I just don't know that we want horses in the city. We've eliminated horses in the city. Why would we allow horses in the city?
Are they truly eliminated?
Couldn't we have horses on greater acreage? Is that what I'm thinking?
10 acres and more.
10 acres or more, I believe,
Right.
is where you
Yeah.
can have the horses, and we do have some properties that do qualify, but I'm trying to remember what we have in our animal control ordinance.
We don't allow equine.
We don't?
No, well, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that as a blanket statement. I think it's only allowed on 10 acres or more.
Yeah, and so I'd keep it then, just so that we stay consistent.
Do
Yeah,
what,
it's under
Melissa?
ag.
Yeah, I don't think it's a blanket statement that they're not allowed. If I remember correctly, it's that they're only allowed on larger pieces of land.
I'd recommend we keep it. Council, please. Jesse, Todd, okay. Okay, what's next?
Okay, this goes back to my bugaboo with structure. Page 130, we talk about a structure, pool house, blah, 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 blah. If it's attached to the main house and so on. Here we go again with this idea of a structure. That means somebody can do that 5-foot piece of sidewalk and have 17 pool houses, and they're all legit, and I oppose that. right? Page 130. Maybe I'm just,
You're talking accessory structure?
I am, accessory structure, correct. Page 130, and maybe I'm just sensitive to that, but we talk about it being, you know, that a pool deck or patio is attached and so on, but once again, this whole structure thing is kind of bothers me, that's all.
Okay, so what would you change it to?
Well, Cynthia knows we've gone over this a gazillion times, that we've got to find a way, in my opinion, that we eliminate the ability for someone to attach, again, a pool house or 3 spas or whatever to their home, their main dwelling, by the use of a 5-foot, sidewalk, and calling it part of the main structure. Therefore, they can continue to add to their yard, or whatever you want to call it, with additional structures up to the limit. I'm just saying we need to disallow structures being, attached to the house by things like a 5-foot sidewalk. And I don't know the word on that. This is something we've fought for quite some time.
Right, and we actually have that addressed. It's page 69 of my,
69?
yes, ma'am. So that we limit, we tightened up the requirements for accessory structure, when they're allowed, when they're not allowed, where they're allowed.
Okay, so page 30, the definition, is that sufficient then? On page 130, because does that match, in your opinion, what we've clarified on those other pages?
Let me check
I
the
didn't
definition.
cross-reference
real quick.
it.
No problem. Hang on, let me catch up with you there on the definitions.
It's on page 130 is definition.
What I will say is that, when I read this definition, I believe that it is sufficient. Because the intent of this, and nowheres that I know of, with other cities that I've worked with, has ever allowed the little strip thing to make it, quote, connected to the main structure. And that is kind of a uniquely Garden Ridge thing, and I don't know when or why that interpretation came about. But what I would say is that was never probably the most accurate interpretation to have allowed that from the beginning. So what I would suggest to you is that the way that we have it here, and then with the added controls in the other section, I think is sufficient.
That's fine, if
Well,
you're comfortable.
Katie, this makes more sense to me now, just reading this. So we actually, on page 69, paragraph A5, we say accessory structures connected to the main structure via a sidewalk or breezeway shall be considered separate accessory structures and not a part of the main structure for the purpose of this section. And then it's got an addendum. Any existing use that is made non-conforming by the adoption of this provision will be a legal non-conforming use and subject to 20709 non-conforming lot structures and uses. So we actually do cover that.
I believe that. I'm just saying, since it's cited in like 3 different places, to me, it was a little misleading. I don't know that it's going to be an issue. I mean, if Cynthia's, I agree with you, and if Cynthia's comfortable with this interpretation, that's fine. Again, it's been a sort of a personal issue.
You've been working on this for a long time.
Yeah.
You've done great work. Okay, next.
Okay, real quickly, believe it or not, 134. Okay, this is really nitpicky, and you're not going to like it. Barber or beauty shop. If you look up barber, I turned it off by mistake. I wonder if the wording, we just shouldn't say barber or beauty salon, whatever, a fixed establishment or place where one or more persons engage in the practice of barbering or, quote, other personal care services, because that allows things like the waxing and all that stuff. Because barber by definition is masculine, even though women can go to a barber's college. but barber, I think barbering as a verb is masculine. So it's just to allow, rather than say cosmetology, I would just say other personal care services, just based on reference I've looked at. That's just purely semantics.
Okay. Cynthia?
I'm okay with that.
Sounds great. What did you say, Kate? Write it one more time, just so I got a copy of it.
A barber, or change to barber or beauty salon, just it's more, I think it's a more contemporary, familiar use. And then the sentence would read, just delete or cosmetology and say, or other personal care services, period.
Okay. Everybody good?
And one other thing, I promise, I think, when, page 155, the definition of small solar energy, do we, I don't know that we adequately address the height, allowable height for any of these, just like we do on the radio antenna. I don't know that that height is, without cross-referencing, and I may have missed it, that we're limited, because I know we ran into this issue once with a home already on shortwave radio antenna, and this would be in the same vein. Are we going to eliminate the height? Or are we going to limit the height for either of these structures?
What page are we on? Sorry. 155.
155 is the small solar energy system. I'm not opposed to small solar, just saying when we talked about, that could be a pole, that could be a raised pole, just like the shortwave radio antenna.
So what would you add there? To
I don't
be-
know, I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
So it's not
Some-
addressed in
some
the
are.
definition, but in the actual ordinance, if you look on your screen, it goes into all of the requirements for a small solar energy system. I don't know if that's what you're looking for.
Page 79, yeah.
No more than 6 feet above the existing grade.
Right, I know when attached to the house and all that, but would we reference that as well on this, solar?
These are definitions. Yeah.
I know, but,
I think we're probably
It
good.
says the
on
solar-
that.
okay, yeah,
panels.
cross-reference, okay, we're okay, we're
Yep.
okay.
Okay. Anything else? Well, I'm happy that you had inputs. That's great. It's awesome. Wonderful. Okay, Lisa, anything else to add? Jesse, we have one more thing we need to discuss and then we'll be done. Yep. Todd, thanks for hanging out. What?
I did have something,
Go.
I mentioned to Nancy already. Let me get my notes. Aquifer protection overlay, effluent irrigation system is referenced on there. And we have areas that are in the aquifer protection system that probably have effluent. So probably need to take that out. It's in the existing ordinance also right now.
Yes,
So-
and we're thinking, because of the aerobic septic systems.
Right.
That's an effluent. I'm trying to find the section.
Page 87,
Yes.
2.0614.
So what would you add to that?
Just remove it, huh?
Oh.
Well,
Just get rid of that whole section then. Because we
Well-
don't allow
No,
it.
just,
no, I think we just need to look at the different areas. This is something that Nadine had brought up.
Remind me, I'd read that, and I just reread the note today.
so just remove the effluent irrigation
I think so,
areas?
Yeah, that was the input.
yeah. 87.
87.
I think everything else is the same.
Yeah, so we would remove affluent irrigation areas, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And with, I'm sorry, and with sewage sludge disposal period,
Yeah.
and remove or?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
perfect.
Okay.
Are we removing sewage sludge disposal?
No.
Leaving
No.
sewage sludge disposal, period.
Oh, okay.
And take out
Okay.
or affluent irrigation areas.
Okay. Got it.
That's all, besides the
All right.
RVs.
Great, awesome. One more thing to talk about. RVs. Okay.
Seventy-three.
That's the original thing I had marked. All right. I think we should, at the moment, I think we should leave it as it's currently written, not in the draft, but as we have it zoned. So when we say, I mean, concealed from view in a garage, yep, that's great. Parked in a rear or interior side yard. So I'd like to hear everybody's opinion on this. And people have worked a long time and put a lot of wording into here, but I'm not sure, based on the inputs I've gotten from the community, to not change anything that we have currently, outnumber the requested changes from the inputs that I've gotten in the last, nearly 6 months. So Lisa, thoughts?
I'm okay with the current ordinance, mostly because people, when they bought in those neighborhoods, had a general sense that they were going to be allowed to have their RVs there. And that may have been part of the reason they bought in the first place. And I don't think it's any, I don't think some of this is enforceable. I don't know. I'm curious to see what other people think.
Okay, one of the, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, what the major differences are just where it is, mostly, where it's parked.
That's the major difference.
That's the major difference.
Yes. Go ahead,
Okay,
Jesse.
let Jesse.
So looking through the way it's written now, a lot of it's been reorganized compared to the ordinance the draft ordinance that was reviewed back in September by the P&Z public hearing. The major change is the second part of B, where it says, shall generally be screened in view by public right-of-way by being placed behind a structure or behind a fence, behind a 6-foot tall solid fence or wall. Okay? Sometimes should be not included, completely screened from view, exceeding the height of 6 feet, whatever. But that's generally the addition. I think everything else is the same as there was before. So we eliminate that. And that was added in the last few months, the last time there was a review. Everything else, I think, is generally the same. I would like to see figure 1 from the current ordinance, which shows what the front yard is, what the exterior side yard is, the interior side yard. So I think that's in our current ordinance. So I think we need to bring that in just to show by definition, and it gives an example. The other thing
I would say if council agrees on the figure 1, adding it in, I think, Cynthia, correct me if I'm wrong, that is a policy decision. The only reason that it's not in there now is because Bryce's recommendation was to limit the amount of figures we were using and tighten up the wording so that the two don't contradict each other.
Okay.
So it's not that we can't add it, it's more so if y'all want to add it.
Well, I just thought I'd just give clarification of what by definition means in this case. Anyway, I can go either way. The other part.
Read it currently again, where you can store it.
Huh?
In the current ordinance that you have the,
I have the revised one
I
here, but
have
I'm
the
sorry.
current here,
can you read that for us?
where you can store them.
Yes.
There's So I'm going to be reading a couple of paragraphs. Unrestricted parking of vehicles, trailers, and boats in yards adds to the deterioration of residential areas and creates a nuisance. The following may not be parked in a residential zone except where concealed from view in a garage or as permitted in 5.1.3.4.
Page 23, Marissa.
All types of recreational vehicles, trailers, boats, inoperable vehicles, commercial or farm vehicles, except pickup trucks on platted residential lots. Now, 5.1.3.4, no person shall store, house, travel, or utility trailer of any type, semi-trailers, boats, motorhomes, or campers in the front yard, any portion of driveway within the front yard, or exterior side yard, see Figure 1, that's in parentheses closed. Property owners and tenants may use only rear or interior yards to store these classes of vehicles and trailers and boats.
The fence, the behind the fence. So behind the fence or behind a wall on the side yard was added recently.
And that was we did that in March, right? At the,
After the
P&Z,
first of
yeah.
the year.
yeah.
Earlier this year, yeah.
Yeah, it's,
P&Z.
no, I have it in the notes.
Yeah, I don't remember which month, but I think it was March.
Yeah, it was March,
Yeah, it was,
yeah.
it was after March public, they had a March public
Yeah,
hearing.
it was
It was
March's
actually
public.
added before then.
Yeah.
Because it was in the public hearing for March. It was already in, that's when the people started coming in and so it came in before then, so it must have been January or February.
Okay.
Because it was addressed in the public hearing then. Our residents that's actually brought it up.
So the only thing we would be changing is to require a solid fence or
In my
covering.
opinion, that's what the only major change from that.
Right, and covering could be a number of things, I mean,
Yeah.
but even in our change, it says, hey, 6 feet is fine, even if the trailer RV is above that. So we are basically putting a burden on
Yeah.
people that are conforming right now to, hey, you gotta build a fence.
Yeah.
Solid
Yeah.
fence. So, and I'm not in favor of placing that burden on somebody that, for a solid fence, and that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, to cover half the RV, right?
Half hour RV. Yeah.
If that, yeah. So, okay, so we would take out the fencing, because parked in a rear or interior side yard, we already have. We would add Figure 1 back in there, because that's a policy decision. We just put it in there, and we would take out,
You would start at shall be generally screened from view from the public. I think that's where you'd have to start, no?
That's right.
Yes.
Yes.
Delete that, right?
Behind the structure, well, wait a minute. Yeah, I think you'd need to start there.
so we take out shall be generally screened from view from the public right-of-way by being placed behind the structure, or
6-foot tall fence or wall.
what is structure? What are we talking about here?
They're talking about the residence, but yet
The
you're,
garage.
yet you allow them to park in the interior side yard.
Right, so we keep recreation, paragraph B, recreational vehicles, travel trailers, house trailers, trailers, boats, commercial or farm vehicles, excluding 1 ton or less pickup trucks, Rob Erickson, or similar equipment parked in a rear yard or interior side yard. So what are we taking out? Shall be generally screened from view from the public right-of-way by being placed behind the structure or behind a 6-foot tall fence or wall. Such item, and then we kind of contradict that, such items do
Yeah.
not have to be completely screened from view if they exceed the height of 6 feet. So, okay. So, actually, we could take out that entire paragraph, because we already say parked in a rear or interior side yard.
Where are we saying that?
So, A2, park
Oh,
in a
okay.
rear or interior side yard.
Yeah,
Such items shall not be parked in the front yard or exterior side yard, corner lots. I'm okay with still leaving that, except on a temporary basis as provided for in this section. Such items shall additionally be located to comply with all setbacks of the underlying zoning district. All we're talking about in paragraph B is adding that fence. So take out the whole paragraph B.
I think that's good. I think that makes sense.
Jesse, you're good? Todd?
Yep.
Okay. Lise? Yep. Okay. So paragraph B is gone, and C actually becomes B, and so on and so forth.
So I have two other issues.
Go.
With this. So another issue I have with this section is commercial vehicles are included in here. You know, along with RVs, boats, and everything else. And I think we ought to separate commercial vehicles personally. And maybe move commercial vehicles to, so under the current G, which would be new F, it talks about, you know, having, you know, to unload and load travel trailers and all that. We have a not to exceed 10 days for no more than four times a year. So that seems excessive, but it's in our current ordinance also. So, but I like, you know, maybe we limit and put commercial vehicles in that section and just, and leave it as a, leave it out of the rest of it. I don't know, I'm just.
So when you're
looking for
talking
comments
commercial
right now.
vehicles, give me an example of exactly what you're talking about.
So a business truck, I mean, somebody's plumbing truck or somebody's, yeah, whatever their business is, that's a big vehicle. It's like a, you know, your plumber coming in with their big trucks, things like that. Could be a food truck, could be, you know, a trailer. Could be a, you know, a food trailer, for example, too. I mean, anything else, or a mowing truck, you know, some of those are bigger. You know,
So what would
items.
you specifically change then?
I would take, my thought is to take it out of, for example, out of A then, and then maybe move it and just put it under just a temporary loading, unloading type thing, maybe.
Okay.
This is one thought. I don't know, I'd like to see other people's comments on what they think about commercial vehicles, you know, somebody's, you know, it's just, you know,
Is there a problem that we're trying to address there? I'm trying to think of
I don't know that I've seen
walking,
any.
driving through neighborhoods. I don't remember seeing any.
Yeah.
So maybe we just leave it as is and,
Other thoughts, other comments?
Yeah, I haven't seen any, and I guess one of my concerns would be is what if you, I don't know, set fire to your guest house, for example, and you have construction going on now?
Oh, that one, that's permitted in here, but.
It's
there's a second-
permitted, but you may have a truck parked there for more than 10 days consecutive because they're in their
No,
work.
no, no, it's
Well,
spelled out
project is
separately.
going,
Okay.
ongoing.
Okay.
It's spelled out separately. I remember reading that, so that's spelled out
Okay.
specifically for that, so. It'd be the homeowner vehicle type. I just wanted to bring that up, you know, basically, so.
okay? Okay?
I'm sorry, I had a hard time following, Jesse, specifically what you're recommending, what you are opposed to, sorry?
Commercial, you know, I'm okay with the recreational vehicles. You know,
Right.
your RVs, your
Right.
travel trailers
Right.
and everything else.
Right.
It's just the commercial vehicle being stored there, you know, year-round, for example. You know, even though they, you know, whether they come, if they come and go every day, that's a different story.
Yeah, if it's their mode of transportation, you don't have a
Yeah,
problem.
that's different. That's, yeah, if it's come and goes every day. But if
Yeah.
they actually storing it in one place, you know, and they only use it out, say they only use it, you know, several times a year or something like that. It's something that, you know, one resident brought up to me, that's all. I don't know where it is, actually, so, but we can leave it like it is and maybe address it if a problem comes up.
Let's do that. Does that work? What else?
That's all I have.
Okay?
Well,
No, you got one more.
I just thought, I brought the 10 days up, you know, for everything else. G had 10 days, consecutive days, no more than 4 times a year. How do we monitor that?
Somebody would complain, and we haven't gotten any of those
Yeah.
to my knowledge. Nancy?
There's one thing that is in the current zoning ordinance, but it is not in the new proposed. And the current one says, no person shall use a travel trailer or other type of recreational vehicle having sleeping accommodations as temporary lodging for a period exceeding 7 consecutive days on any homeowner's property.
Oh, that's not in there.
We don't have that in the new proposed ordinance. I don't know if council wants to still allow that. This predominantly was, people would have guests come visit that had an RV, and the guests would stay in the RV while they were there visiting, but they couldn't go past 7 days.
F touches on it a little bit, but doesn't go as far.
So you're suggesting we add it back? That in?
I,
Yeah, I'm good.
I'm okay with that.
I'm good with that.
I'd
Let's
like
add
to
that
add it
back
back in.
Yep.
So,
Okay, we'll add that back in. Nice catch, Nancy. What else? Go ahead, Kay, while Nancy's writing.
oh, I'm
Okay, these are nitpicky, and these are things for Marissa. On page 27, under the land use regulations chart, I brought this up before, and I think we just somehow, I don't know if maybe I misheard, but we put P dash the number sign, and I understand that's a reference to the chart, but in fact, it's not a number, it's a letter. So for clarification, for people that have never seen this before, they're picking up a 161-page document, P and then dash in parens, put the word letter or something like that to indicate P, and then as well on S. So they understand this can reference, because if you're looking for a P pound sign, you're not gonna know what you're looking for. If you look for P, 4, whatever, you're gonna find it. Just a comment. And one other thing, I think, again, for everyone's benefit, where we talk, and I don't have a page reference, but we talk about arterial and collector streets and so on and so on. I would like to see an example for reference in our city. For example, 3009 is an arterial. Bat Cave is a collector, or whatever. Just maybe 3 examples for reference.
Okay. I'm okay with that. In fact, your first comment took me a while to figure out in my research over the weekend, so I totally agree with that, and I'm okay with adding in a couple of examples.
Can you clarify exactly what you're wanting in this chart? You're wanting it to say P dash parentheses, the word letter, close parentheses.
Correct. I know that's wordy, but just. Sorry, darn it. Just to clarify that we're going to reference a letter. If you put a letter in there, they're going to look for PA everywhere. If you put a B in there, they're going to look for B. So if you just put P dash parens letter, someone should figure out that they're looking for a letter rather than a pound sign. Because, No, our chart, because our chart is all about letters. Like PA, PB, so on and so on, PC.
What if you put an asterisk instead?
Or an
And
asterisk.
at the bottom, put an asterisk.
Asterisk.
Asterisk means letter.
Yeah, an asterisk would be simple. You
Asterisk.
wouldn't have to redo the chart.
That's it, asterisk.
Yeah, a
Rather than
footnote.
number,
Put a footnote.
rather than the pound sign, asterisk.
And the asterisk designation or description could be right underneath that chart.
Correct. That'd be a simple, clean way to do it.
Does that make sense, Marissa? Okay. What else?
I'm-
You good? Crazy. That's touchdown.
Done.
It's touchdown. Nancy?
Okay, just one little quickie here. On table 1, page 11, under zoning variance 2.08.02, we have in here,
Oh, shoot.
we have zoning administrator recommend The next column says Planning and Zoning Commission recommend, then it has City Council / Board of Adjustment decide. Shouldn't we put NA under, or we want to take out recommend for P and Z, correct?
Yes, and I made that comment at the, I think, back in May. Yeah. I was gonna bring it up again, just to be sure, but yeah.
Did you have those notes, Marissa?
I have noted that Jesse and I talked about it,
Oh,
but
okay.
I would rather have legal advice on what we should and shouldn't remove and take out of that specific chart.
Yay.
So the answer is yes, because, you know, the whole ZBOA process, like I said, we had a good run with it the way that it was, but now we've got to bring it up to current speed. So we will just make a notation here to make sure that we catch it across the whole thing. Mhm.
Okay, what else, Nancy?
At this point, I don't have anything else.
Okay, I don't have any further comments. Council, Lisa? Uncle?
I have one additional thing.
Marissa, go.
So this is a recommendation that came from Bryce a while back, and I think it's just something that we never discussed, but he highly discouraged us from moving forward with a garage sale permit and permit fee, because he says that in his experience and in other cities, when they've tried doing that, it places a huge burden on staff, and the people that are gonna comply are gonna comply, and the people that aren't gonna comply aren't gonna come get a permit. So he just says that anytime he sees that you require anyone to come and get a garage sale permit, even if there's a little small fee associated with it for you to try to get some of that money back in staff time, it's not worth it in the end.
Page.
So the permit fee is on page 161, but the garage sale, where we just talk about garage sales in general, is on page 40. It just says that permits are required to conduct garage sales. So anytime somebody wants to have a garage sale, we're saying they need to come to City Hall and get a permit from us,
What do we currently do?
Nothing.
not that.
This is a new item, if I remember. So you just take the permit out or leave the whole, or take the
He
whole
was
thing
saying
out?
just take the permit out and make it more so on a, like, we want to keep it as 2 times per household per calendar year. Keep it as, if it becomes an issue, you rely on how things are currently reported right now. Somebody that has an issue with it reports it, it's tracked through the police department in the ordinances, and they're enforcing them.
So just taking out permits are required to conduct garage sales, and there shall be no blockage of streets.
We can leave in there that they can't block streets, just taking out the permits.
I'm good with that.
What we were trying to do is we had a residence that they got to where it was every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, they would have a garage sale. And it really was ending up being a business. And we thought putting this in here would alleviate, and then with the permit, we could see how often they were having the garage sales, how many days. And after they hit the, 2 times, then it would be considered they were conducting they would have to comply with the home-based business requirements.
And basically Bryce was saying that they're not gonna come in and get a permit, so it's gonna be a waste of our time, and we're not gonna be able to track it through a permit anyways. That it's better tracked through whoever's enforcing this code.
The neighbors
Well, our police department, through the
calling
neighbors.
the city. Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Does that make
I'm
sense?
okay with that, yeah.
But can we keep well, wait a minute.
All the other restrictions in there, he didn't have a comment about. His only comment was requiring people to come in to City Hall and get a permit. That's it.
I'm okay with just taking out permits are required to conduct garage sales. Just say there'll be no blockage of streets. Or add in somewhere.
Are we gonna keep the number of
Yeah.
times and the hours,
Yeah.
3 days?
You bet.
Okay, okay.
Okay, good. What else? Now's the time. Lisa? Jesse? Todd? Uncle? Kay?
Good.
Nancy?
I'm good.
Cynthia? Good. Okay. Great job. Todd, thanks for hanging. Tell Troop 828 they are troopers. No pun intended, and thank you. You're okay. All right, so what we need then, Marissa, what do we need to end this off? Do we need a motion to send it to you?
No, please don't do that.
Okay, so we don't. So we are good to go. That's our work session.
That's our work session. The Ls will now take it and craft it up from there and bring it back with,
Which is appropriate because the public hearing will probably be in December anyway, right? Okay. Guys, seriously, everybody in this room, that was great work. So, and to P and Z out there and the technical committee, a bunch of whom are up here, thanks for years of hard work, and thanks for your hard work tonight, council and city staff and Cynthia. Awesome. Okay. Moving on. Item number 5, citizen comment period. Being that there are no more citizens, we will press forward with item number 6. There being no further business, the city council special meeting is adjourned at 8:51 p.m. on Monday, the 29th of August. Thanks. We are adjourned. She did. Yeah. Wow.